The hour of time is there.
Yeah.
It's just that when you are, I guess, starting a business or in the middle of your journey or even scaling your company, you always find it hard to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing, because a healthy body, a healthy mind is also a healthy business. But I don't think it's spoken about enough about, the fact that in order to have
Yes.
and sustain a business, you also need to be healthy.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, there's no point in growing a business if you're not around to see the fruit of all the effort.
Yeah. And I would say to you that being in business is not an easy journey.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Tami Leischer with us, and she's going to share her journey, her business. Tami, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Kesi.
I'm so excited for our conversation today. Tami, can you talk to our audience today? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. I am Tami Leischer, and I own a Pilates studio in Grand Blanc, Michigan. But it's kind of multi-pronged. So I started off in my actual physical business 8 years ago. And at the time, I just taught Pilates, but I also have a very strong background in early childhood education. And I worked with children that had been impacted by trauma and poverty and adversity. And I saw how it impacted their development, like their overall development. And in 2020, I stepped away from my full-time job to pursue and expand on my studio. And I always say that, I really enjoy working with children because I was a mentor teacher, and I did a ton of trainings for teachers, like at the college level as well. So anyways, I got invited to do an event for a nonprofit agency in the fall of 24. And there were 600 parents and children, and I did yoga with them. And this little girl crawled into my lap, and it was like a light bulb went on inside of me. And I was like, no, I have to figure out how I'm going to do this and fit it into my business model. So she was like the catalyst that really helped me propel to what I'm doing today. So I still work with adults, and I created a program called Trauma Informed Movement, which is using Pilates as the modality to help people move their bodies as a way to release the trauma so the body keeps score. Just go from there. I do private classes. I do one-on-one classes. I teach at our local community college. And then I also work with the parents and children. And I've written a curriculum called Move Into Calm. So it's based for parents, educators, grandparents. It's really very user-friendly. So, but I brought all of my, I'm going to just say all of my strong likes. I've always been involved in movement. Like my dissertation for my master's degree was in movement, like child development movement, and what is normal and what is not normal. And then, and currently I'm, in neuroscience, and the science behind it is just really important. So.
Ooh, I love that. And what did you know starting out, right, that this was the direction you're going to take when you were doing your master's, saying, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur?
No, not at all. At the time, I was working for a nonprofit agency, and I did at one point own another business, but I closed it and then went to work for a nonprofit agency. And at the time, if you would have told me this is what I would have been doing a long time ago, I would have looked at you and said, oh no, I am. And I wouldn't have been. At the same time of doing my degrees, I always worked in I taught yoga, I taught Pilates, at that time, I taught something called spinning. And so spinning is, you get on the bike and you ride, and it, brings your heart rate up. It was when it first came out. And I did that for a really long time. So I worked full time, and then I had the movement stuff on on the side as well. And that where I really began to see changes both within myself and within like the clients that I were working with was Pilates. And Pilates for me was like a game, like it just opened up parts of my body that I was really holding tension and holding stress and holding, stuff that had happened to me a long time ago. That childhood trauma that we all have, and it was just allowing myself to begin to release it. And then I saw what it did for me through the nervous system. And then I went on and I actually worked with a couple of coaches, and I'm certified in the nervous system. And that led me to Butler University, which is in Indiana. And there's a program called Applied Education and Neuroscience, and it's working with children and their nervous system. So it's working with adults, children, trauma, and adversity in this, I'm going to call it a post-master's certification. And I'll be done with that in the beginning of May.
Wow. So, okay. So you realize then, from what I'm hearing, is that you're realizing the nervous system, like there's trauma and it affects the nervous system.
Yes.
How did that affect your business? So once you started to do Pilates and you realized, it's changing the game for you, how did it affect your business?
I saw it, and a lot of times people don't realize that trauma impacts our breathing patterns, and even for people for people who are I'm just going to say stress. So if people carry a lot of stress in their back, they may sit like they're more rounded like this, which compresses like your diaphragm and your lungs, so you can't breathe really heavy. Sometimes their head is downcast. Maybe their eyes are even downcast, and they can't breathe deeply. So you think about that from a movement standpoint, even walking and having your body more rounded like that. And sometimes it happens like within people that are depressed. I mean, I see it in my students that I work with at the college, because many of them are coming from areas that have been impacted by trauma. The other thing is it reverses it. If somebody is full of anxiety, they tend to carry themselves more open. But what the issue is they can't get a full exhale out. So it's for the people that are like this, the exhale is constricted in the diaphragm. So if you're sitting upright like this, you can't get enough air. So it's on the inhale. And there's a book, actually, I can show you one before we're finished. There's a lady that wrote a Pilates book, and it's called, it's Brooke Sillers, and she did a second version of it. And it's called The Pilates Body. And she actually quotes that in the book, where it's looking at specifically that, but it's also holding the tension and the resistance in our body that helps, that stops people from moving, or it hurts, like they hurt from moving.
So I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, they suffer from burnout.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are some key indicators that they can look for to tell bodies, if they're in their body, to tell that, something's wrong?
Fatigue.
Okay.
Heavily stressed. Can't sleep.
Wow.
They might even have difficulty walking or moving, depends on where they carry their stress, because people carry their stress in all aspects of their body.
Mm-hmm.
They could carry it in their pelvis, or they could carry it in their back. Typically, I see more people that carry it like in their jaw and in their neck, shoulders, and pelvis. So the key, those are the three that I probably would say that I see the most. Okay. So what can they do? Take a minute and just sit back and just breathe. Put your phone down. Put your phone down. Put your phone down. Put your phone down. Go outside and take a deep breath, even if it's cold outside. If you live in a warm climate, take your shoes off and go out and put your feet in the grass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And connect with the earth. And I like to use the words ground yourself. And even sitting in a chair like where we are right now, like if you have your shoes on, I mean, that's fine. But if you can take your shoes off, just take your shoes off and just let your feet press into the floor, and then maybe pick your toes up and press your feet down. And when you feel grounded, it allows you to not feel so scattered. I mean, because a lot of times people have a lot of different, what I'm going to call symptoms. But if we're burned out, take a look at, are you overdoing it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you people pleasing? Are you having difficulty making decisions? Are you short on breath? Are you sick all the time?
Mm-hmm. And
it impacts our diet. I mean, and it's not just the nervous system. Stress impacts our whole body.
Yeah.
It does. It impacts our whole body. And so nervous system, breathing are the two gateways for me that really started me on this journey of using that more in my business. And then actually the pendulum swung, because then I started seeing kids who can't breathe. They're either mouth breathers, or they can't, or they can't breathe out all the way. And for those kids, I tend to work with a lot of children that have they're neurodivergent, or they have sensory issues, or they have ADHD, or even some of them have had the individual education plans with needing support in the classrooms, like with speech or with their other, like reading and things like that. But using the body to help the children gain the strength, like if they can't write with holding a pen,
Mm-hmm.
think about it. If we're slumped over like this, try picking up a pen and writing. So you have to have a strong core, abdominal muscles that are going to support you. And that's where a lot of times my background is in education, but it's also in movement. And I had one girl tell me not too long ago, she's like, Tami, you should have been an OT. And I'm like, no, because I'm coming at it from an educational standpoint. If we do these kind of things, it's going to improve coordination. It's going to improve balance. It's going to improve, physically, it's going to improve with the children and the adults. Mm-hmm. We all have issues in our body.
Right. And how does that impact one's career?
Oh my gosh. I think that for me, and I'm going to use me as an example because this was something that I struggled with. Like making decisions in your business, for me personally, I was always, I'm going to use the word wishy-washy, and I wasn't able to make decisions like without consulting other people, like where I made the decision and I was confident in making that decision. I always felt like I had to consult somebody else or think about it over and over, or maybe I would think about it and then I would change my mind and I would do something different. People pleasing. Oh, I can't do that because so-and-so is not going to like the way I did that. I can't raise my rates because I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. Well, you're in business for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we want to charge what we're worth.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I think that a lot of this goes back to stress, but there's also another word I'm going to use tonight. It's when we begin to look at what's going on inside of us. There's usually a lot more. And I'm not saying you got to go to counseling, because that's not what I'm here for. It's right. When you begin to address your own issues and how do those patterns that we established as children, like people pleasing, for example. Right. If we were a people pleaser as a child, more than likely we're people pleasing as an adult. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to continue carrying those survival tools that we had when we were children. Mm-hmm. So we can move forward.
Wow. And how did Pilates change that trajectory for you in your business?
It was a combination of Pilates, but also the nervous system work. The training that I went through made me open my eyes and begin to realize that, we're no longer that, like I did a lot of what I'm going to call inner child work. So it was making me and realizing how all of those things impacted me, like people pleasing and lack of decision making. It stifled me in ways, like it stifled me. Or the other piece for me, took me a long time, Kesi, is to have a voice and talk about it, publicly like I'm doing right now, and I had to work really hard at that, is to say confidently, this is what I do.
Mm-hmm. And did that stem from mentorship, or how did that transition happen for you to become more confident?
I did because when we become, like, when you're, the vagus nerve or the nervous system has two veins that run on either side of your neck. And if something happens, it can cause your throat to become more constricted. For some people, it's not necessary. It's not constricted where you can't breathe,
Right.
but you just feel the tightness. I, for a long time, suffered from TMJ, which is where you have tension in the jaw, and it resides in the jaw. And I went through all kinds of therapy with it, and I had to wear a bite splint, and I had to do all kinds of stuff with it. But my point in talking about this is, over the weekend, it was flaring up, which I've not had flare up in a long time. So then it made me stop and say, what exactly, what kind of stress was I having in my life? And then I just stopped, and I started doing, like, just opening and closing my mouth, sometimes doing vocal sounds like humming. Drinking cold water can help release the vagus nerve, and it helps you down regulate your nervous system. Those are really something simple. Breathing, something as simple. And people just, I think that we don't use breath work. And I'm very careful to talk about breath work, because if people are not trained in it, and I have done some training, so I'm not a breath work coach, but I know enough that sometimes people can hyperventilate from doing too much breathing. And it's just sitting down and breathing your natural breath patterns. So to answer how that impacted my business, I would say to you that I worked hard. I worked really hard at being more open about talking about what I'm doing, but also standing up for myself, and not letting people run over me. I mean, I think for me, that was that, and it didn't necessarily impact yes, it did impact my business. I mean, it's been over time. Like, I've taught Pilates now for probably more than 15 years, but I also taught yoga. And, it's all about, especially with yoga, it's all about the inward journey and finding out what holds you back and what stifles you in so many different ways.
Wow. What
Am I getting too heavy, Kesi? Am I getting too heavy am I getting too heavy? Meaning,
no, not at all. I'm actually enjoying this, because it's making me realize that there are other things or other modalities that you can use in order to be able to get unstuck, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to just say, there's a lot of people right now in social media talking about the breath work. And I'm very careful about, like, when I do work with, like, with children specifically, I use tools that help them, but I also want them to understand, like, what does it feel like when I breathe? Like using a soft ball, like, over their belly, so they can feel that rise. So if the ball's here, they can feel the rise and fall against their belly. That would help them to have a better understanding of that. Moving their body, like for children specifically, and can be even adults. They already say that emotions need motion, which means, and that's something that I've coined, and your body needs to move. So if you're sedentary and you're stressed out, get up, go for a walk. Right. You always feel better. Yeah. Well, it's true. It's true. And so I like to encourage people, like my clients. I see my clients, but outside of the studio, they have to continue that work with something that they enjoy doing. Maybe it's weightlifting. Maybe it's going to a yoga class. Maybe it's getting out and riding your bike. Maybe it's taking your pet for a walk, or sitting on the couch and petting your pet is always, and those are all kinds of studies that have been done to show that it can co-regulate. And what I mean by co-regulate is your breathing becomes, like you're in sync with each other. Like, even right now, you and I are having this conversation, but we are we're doing a back and forth dialogue. So the energy is good between us. So if you've been in a position where the energy is not good, you have this tension and resistance, and you can feel it energetically. So, but I think that there's tools that people can use. There's also vibration plates that people use. I would caution, if you're using it with children, to do a little bit of research. But moving their body and slowing down, like slow down. And I have a tendency to talk fast, Kesi. So I feel like sometimes I have to slow myself down.
Yeah. I mean, slowing yourself down if you're someone that's always, is typically very hard. It's very difficult.
It is. It is.
And for people that are building businesses too, right? They tend to be moving at a different pace. What are some tips that you would give yourself? Yeah, if you had to go back in time and give yourself some tips to be able to help that version of you, what are some of the things that you would have suggested or recommended to yourself?
I think that I would have really taken a step back and really looked at like the behaviors. Being an overachiever sometimes it's in society, it's this grandiose. It's like people who overachieve, but yet in reality, it can cause people to get sick. Like when you're constantly moving and you're constantly doing all those kind of things. I would have slowed myself down with my daughters. I had breast cancer 20 years ago, and there's all kinds of studies out that show that high levels of stress can add to breast cancer of any kind, but specifically breast cancer as well. So slowing down, taking the time to smell the roses and pay attention to what's going on around you in your environment. I mean, your business is going to be there, and I don't deny that. I don't, because I still get myself like, I still get I really have to pace myself and say, okay, today I've done enough. I'm going to go and take a walk with my dog instead of staying at the computer and doing over and over. I mean, I feel like part of my business right now with the kids portion, I'm still growing and creating systems behind all of that stuff. And there's only so much I can do. Like doing this podcast with you, I have one more big thing that I have to do when I'm done after we're done. And then I'm probably going to sit and I'm probably going to maybe go and have a cup of tea and just like be. I like to journal, and I journal every day. And it's always a start in the morning. I do breath work. I do some kind of movement, and journaling can help. I mean, it really, truly can, because if you can see a pattern in what you're doing, that's when I begin to like look at, things for myself. Like, okay, what am I not doing right? And in the past, Kesi, I used exercise as a means of keeping my stress level down. But on the same time, I have a tendency to over-exercise and overdo things. So that's where the high achiever came into play. So it's just really looking at, where's this coming from? And how do you feel? Like, your physical health is so important. We are only given one life.
Right.
To take care of ourselves, we can be a business, but when it comes right down to it, your business is there, but yet on the same token, we're still left with ourselves.
Right.
We're still left with ourselves.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? So I find that a lot of, and I've had this conversation before about when you go into business, you start a business, right? What typically tends to happen is you are doing so much more work than if you were working for someone else. And most people don't realize it takes so much more effort, so much more time.
Yes, 100%. It's like you're doing marketing and sales, and you got to find a balance for all of it. And it's like, okay, Are you good at marketing but not good at sales?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you really good at creating systems but then you don't know how to sell them?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that when we begin a business, and there's lots and lots of like just components to it. Like I think about the prongs of my business, and under my LLC, I have Studio T Pilates. I do work with the college. I do private work with adults. I do private work with children. I do work as for organizations around children, like schools and nonprofit organizations and things like that. I speak at events on Saturday. A week from Saturday, I'm going to a health and wellness expo that there's probably going to be, 300 to 400 people at. So, and it's constant. It's constant. There's the networking and this belonging to, like, what works for you might not work for me. And it's finding, and you got to create relationships. And I think that's really important. I mean, people are not going to necessarily buy from you if you don't. For me, especially because of the work that I do, they're not going to necessarily buy from me unless I've created some kind of a relationship with them.
I think that's in any business. You have to form some sort of relationship. And, you hear about the 7 touch points before someone actually will purchase from you, know, like, and trust, right? So it's definitely something. But I want to figure out, right, with all of that being said, how does actually physically moving your body and shifting the energy, right, change the dynamic of the business that you get, or the energy of the people that you bring into your business? Like, how does that shift it? How does that change it?
Well, I would say, I mean, honestly, Kesi, I mean, I'm Reiki trained, but I only use it with myself. I don't use it with my clients. So when we are energetically depleted, we don't have energy to give someone else. We attract the people in our sphere who emulate our energy. So for me, when I'm just going to, like, when I think about moving the body, you're moving out that dense negative energy that's in your body that we hold. Like, if you've had, let's just use an example of, like, for example, I'm going to use me. When I had breast cancer, I had to have 2 surgeries. And so that part of the tissue becomes tight and tense. Whereas most of the time our skin has, we have flexibility. And so it's moving that scar tissue. And I'm not a massage therapist. I'm just saying that we can begin to lift our arm and move that tissue to open the back, because, it impacts, like, your range of motion overhead. And I've seen so many women, because I've worked with women that have breast cancer, that come to me, and this might be as far as they can get their arm overhead instead of going like that full range. So I'm going to say it. And I think for me personally, it's moving the dense energy, but also, and it's not just mindset. It's not just mindset. It's like, we can say it, but you got to feel it and you got to do it.
Wow. Okay. So to our listeners that are entrepreneurs, right? And they're coming and they're listening to this show to kind of better understand how to grow and to scale, and, just some business advice, right? What I'm getting from our conversation is that, growth can be limited because energy could be stagnant in the body, right? And in order to get things moving in the right way, we should move our body in order to get that energy flowing and attract the right things. Am I right when I say that?
Yes, Kesi, I would say that, but I feel like also it's just for our own health. For our own health, moving our body is just so critical. Pardon me. It's just, I can't. I mean, I've seen it time and time. I mean, I've seen it with, like, women that I used to work with that don't exercise, that are now, they're having health issues. And it's like, if you don't move your joints,
Mhm.
There's that whole adage that says move it or lose it. And I
Mhm.
truly believe that we have to move our body in order to keep things limber and moving.
Mhm. 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 And have you seen any of your past clients that are let's say business owners that have come to you that have seen significant changes in the way that they maybe operate after releasing or using some of the
I would
modalities?
say that most of my clients I are not business owners, but they have been like they've worked within like organizations, but I've
Mhm.
seen how they move their bodies. They move without pain because think about it. If we're not moving our bodies, we're probably in pain somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, hip pain, like
Mhm.
or hip replacements. So I see them moving more fluidly.
Mhm.
I'm just doing like it just coming and moving. So from a business standpoint, um, I I had a young lady who came to me for Pilates, and she was a business owner, but she was more fixated on making that next dollar, and she
Mhm.
didn't put herself as a priority.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, she lasted probably maybe 10 sessions. When she just started to see the growth, she pulled back because she felt like she needed to still continue on that upward trajectory of not, giving yourself an hour of time of your time is just really important. And you're going to find that you're going to be more productive when you do.
Mhm. Mhm. And I mean, I can definitely say that finding that hour or in your mind. And let me phrase it this way. The hour of time is there.
Yeah.
It's just that when you are, I guess, starting a business or in the middle of your journey or even scaling your company, you always find it hard to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing because a healthy body, a healthy mind is also a healthy business. But I don't think it's spoken about enough about, the fact that in order to have
Yes.
and sustain a business, you also need to be healthy.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah, there's no point in growing a business if you're not around to see the fruit of all the effort.
Yeah. And I would say to you that being in business is not an easy journey.
Mhm.
It's not an easy
No.
journey. And I think that sometimes um, people who are starting think it's easy.
Oh, because they hear it on social media and they see it,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's glamorized, but they're judging the beginning on somebody's middle or end.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that sometimes especially when you begin to scale, like what I'm doing right now with Move Into Calm, it's different. It's going to take me time, but I also am not. I haven't written a book. I'm speaking from true experience, see, and
Hmm.
what I'm doing with the kids and the parents and the
Hmm.
schools. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's I feel like the experience trumps everything that you've ever heard,
yeah,
right?
and yes, I agree. But I decided to go back to school and get
Mhm.
this certificate. And now, have I learned from going and doing what I'm doing because I wanted to focus on the children's nervous system? But have I learned other things along the way that have benefited my business? Oh, 100%, 100%.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because so many people don't realize that their nervous systems are holding them hijack in so many ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Uh, Let me ask you, is there a specific tool that you think um, someone could use to see if their nervous system is jacked before?
Um, there's a lot online. There's a lot of questionnaires that, like could tell you, like if you're shut down, like for example, are you depressed? Are you full of anxiety? Those are usually two key indicators that your nervous system is dysregulated. Um, And then even like how does it impact you? Are you a person who has chronic, like let's just say irritable bowel syndrome or autoimmune disorders? Those are key indicators, especially for heart disease, like so that be heart disease, lung disease, asthma, autoimmune disorders. Those are key indicators for women that they've had past traumas.
Ooh.
And there's a study, and I wasn't going to go too far into this, but I will just talk about it briefly. And it's called the ACEs study, and it's called the Adverse Childhood Studies. And it's got 10 to 15 like indicators that's showing you, like if you've had, let's just say like some of the indicators, the higher your score on the ACE study, the higher your chances of having like traumas and having things like an increase in the health risks.
Wow. 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 Okay. Well, folks, you've heard it here. Listen, you need to figure out what's going on if you are in a business or not, and you happen to stumble upon this podcast, that how
Yes,
you are feeling.
yeah,
Listening to your body is important.
yes, it is. It's very important. But I was going to also say too that in the show notes, I will leave or give you like my contact information. So if you have questions, I'm more than willing to talk to people. And I've done virtual work as well. So, but
Awesome.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. And for everyone that's actually watching on YouTube, the notes will be below. But for anyone listening, Tami, where can they find you?
I actually have two websites. They're soon to be converged. One of them is studiotpilates.com. The other one is moveintocalm.com. I am located actually in Michigan, but my email address is studio, and that's studiotpil595 at gmail.com. So, and there's information. I actually have a really it's not big, but it's enough that people can, I actually have videos on YouTube that are nervous system based, also Pilates based. And that is Studio T Pilates 157 that people can join for free. I don't charge for it. So
let me ask you, do you do a lot of it on Zoom, or do you do it in person mostly?
I have done on the stuff that I have on YouTube, I have done over Zoom and then uploaded the videos. I have not done it. I haven't gone live to do it on YouTube. So now you're giving me new thoughts. Because I think that like just giving them understanding of what it feels like to like think about your breathing. Hold on just a second. I want to show you something. So this is it's a toy, but I still use it with adults as well. And it's called a Hoberman spear. So if you breathe in and your lungs expand, and then when you breathe out, it contracts. And I've got videos on there about the Hoberman spear. I've used balls. I try to keep it where, it's simple things. Like you don't have to use a Hoberman spear. Like you can even pretend you're breathing out on the inhale and then on the exhale, and you collapse. And it's like, it's a good indicator. And I'd use it with my adult clients. And it's like really, like if they have difficulty exercising and breathing, because I see a lot of adults that hold their breath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exercise. Yeah. But showing them and giving them a visual, is really been helpful. But also giving them something that they can take and like, are you feeling your breath in your shoulders? Or are you feeling it low and deep in your abdomen? Like with the ball, or even bringing your hands to like the sides of your ribs can be really helpful as well. So, and again, it's, you don't have to leave your office to do some of these things. Get on the floor and just move your body the way that your body's asking to move. That's the big piece. You don't have to have prescripted exercises to do that.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
if your body,
interesting.
yeah, but think about it. If your body's like when we yawn, our body move. Like if you're laying in bed in the morning and your body you yawn and then you have that stretch. Nobody's telling you how to move your body when you stretch. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's called pendiculation, and it makes and if you think about like we expand and then we contract.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that helps.
No, clearly. Clearly. I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, Tami, thank you so much for sharing your insight. And if you have any tips that you feel would help our audience, I'd love for you to share it with them.
I would say really, I mean, I can't stress enough to begin to just sit down and listen to your body. Our body talks to us in all ways, but if we're constantly on the go and we're ignoring those messages our body's giving us,
Mm-hmm.
usually people end up in more pain, maybe have to have surgery, but really deeply sit down and listen to your body and
Mm-hmm.
find something that you enjoy and move and breathe.
Awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Tami. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Kesi. It was a pleasure to be on.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.